Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Hard Count podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Evan, into sports with us. We're going to be doing our best bets for week 3 of the NFL season. Evan, you want to give us your first bet?
Yeah, first bet, I'm going with the New York Giants at home, getting 3.5 points against the San Francisco 49ers. I'll give you a little trend to start out. In the past 4 years, teams that start 0-2 straight up, just like the New York Giants, are 78% against the spread as underdogs in week 3. The Giants fit that trend, 78%. That's a trend I want to buy into. I think we have a desperate team, a team that doesn't want to go 0-3, versus the most injured team of recent memory in the 49ers. Here are the people that are out on Sunday for San Francisco. This might take 20 minutes to read. Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Bosa, Richard Sherman, George Kittle, Dee Ford, Deebo Samuel, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, their center, and most of the rest of their starting defensive line. Those are their top 12 players right there, and they are all out on Sunday. Nick Mullins will be the starting quarterback for the 49ers, and his number one offensive weapon is going to be Kendrick Bourne. Not good. And this is with a defense with cluster injuries on the line and no secondary to speak of without Richard Sherman. Also, here's another sneaky factor. The 49ers played at MetLife Stadium last week against the Jets. They had a ton of injuries. They filed a complaint about the turf. I think they're going to be a little bit paranoid about this MetLife turf where they lost multiple guys to season-ending injuries. And a good factor for the New York Giants, Daniel Jones, 10th highest graded quarterback thus far by PFF. I'm not worried about Saquon Barkley being out. They can't run block anyways. Maybe this will discourage them from running the ball in the first place. More Daniel Jones. Giants will win the game straight up 24-20.
All right, thanks for that, Ev. I really like that pick. I almost put it on my best bets. Now, my first pick is the Titans -2.5 at the Vikings. Minnesota, to me, bottom 5. They're playing like one of the worst teams in the NFL. You're giving me 2.5, not even a full field goal against a team that right now is arguably playing like a top 10 in the NFL, a top 10 team in the NFL. I'm going to be fading the Vikings right now as long as it has value because I think week to week, it's just going to keep going down. 20th in defensive DVOA. Defense is usually a strong suit for Mike Zimmer's teams, but they've lost to Neil Hunter, Anthony Barr last week. 2 studs on that defense, definitely huge losses. That defense allowed 35.5 points per game, 6.1 yards per play, which is just very, very bad. And last week against the Colts defense that I don't even like too much, the Vikings offense put up 3.7 yards per play, and this was in a game where they were down big for the majority of it. You're thinking they're going to be passing the ball down the field, deep down the field, and they're getting 3.7 yards per play. I'm not a huge fan of that. There's no sense of urgency. Offensive pace in neutral game scripts is 28th. Pass rate when within 6th is 31st in the NFL. Once the Vikings get down, it's going to be very rough, and we've seen that because they rely a lot on running and when they're up and keeping leads. So I think the Titans are going to jump on the Vikings early. This year, the Titans are top 10 in first quarter scoring, and last season after Tannehill took over late in the season, the Titans were 3rd in first quarter scoring. So I think the Titans are going to jump on the Vikings early. The Vikings aren't going to be able to run the ball like they want to, and it's just going to be a struggle for the Vikings. So, and not to mention the Vikings have historically had one of the best home field advantages in the NFL, but that's been negated without fans. Titans get wide receiver A.J. Brown back. I don't think the Titans should have any problem taking care of business Sunday against the Vikings.
Yeah, I like that pick. My only worry is that Vikings 0-2 straight up and against the spread. Those teams tend to fare well in week 3, but I like this Titans team with Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to go to my second pick. This is the game of the week. This is one of my favorite bets of the season. Kansas City getting 3.5 points at Baltimore. In the regular season, we're talking about Lamar Jackson. He is 0-2 versus the Kansas City Chiefs, but he's 21-1 versus everyone else. You know why? The Chiefs have a matchup advantage. Mahomes' worst games have come against the 49ers and the Chargers. Those teams each play primarily a cover 3 defensive scheme. That's a three deep safety zone, soft zone, and it neutralizes the big plays. And that's what Kansas City relies on to move the ball, speed down the field, explosive plays. Baltimore essentially runs the opposite style of defense. It's a bump and run, press, man-to-man. I think Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, and the speed of Kansas City, this track team, is going to have big plays over the top. And this line, Kansas City being 3.5-point underdogs, home field's worth 2, that suggests the Ravens are 1.5 points better than the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs. I disagree. I think that's an overreaction to the game where the Chargers match up well with Kansas City with that cover 3 defense. And the Chiefs were not prepared for Justin Herbert. He got the nod about 10 seconds before kickoff, just playing on adrenaline, not overthinking things. I think that really favored the Chargers. And also, let's think about this. Week 1, the Chiefs played on Thursday night. That means they had 3 days of extra rest for Week 2. And they were 8.5-point favorites Week 2. So what I'm saying is I think Andy Reid was actually looking ahead during that extra mini bye, 3 days extra planning. I think he was looking ahead to the Baltimore Ravens, their biggest matchup of the season, overlooking the Chargers a little bit. I think that's why that game was so close. And also the Chiefs are going to be motivated off a subpar performance against the Chargers. I think this is a line where we're going to look back in a few months and we're going to ask, why on earth Pat Mahomes was getting more than a field goal? I'll take the Chiefs to win outright, 27-26.
Okay, going against my Ravens there. I see you, Evan. I'll give you a little pushback because I think that the Ravens do have a good matchup against the Chiefs defense as well, knowing that the Chiefs defense is not the best at run stopping. That's their biggest weakness by far, and we know the Ravens are such a good running team, but I totally respect it. I like the pick. Should be a very fun game for sure. And yeah, my next pick is Lions at Cardinals. I'm taking the Cardinals minus 5.5 in this one, and I know I'm not a huge guy for home favorites, but I'm doing it this week. Cardinals minus 5.5. I like this bet a lot. Cardinals right now looking like one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Kyler Murray is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. His the dual threat ability, it's kind of reminding us of Lamar Jackson last year. And Lions, on the other hand, are playing terribly. Matthew Stafford, who I see as the bright spot of the Lions organization, has not played up to par so far. And, other than Carrion, of course, he's the guy on that Lions team that is the bright spot.
Absolutely.
But, Matthew Stafford not playing up to par. You got the rest of the roster, which is not playing well either. Cardinals right now 2-0 against the spread. One game as a favorite, one game as an underdog. So they've shown me that they can do it as both. I bet them week 1. They covered with ease. I considered betting Washington last week. I'm glad I didn't because we saw what happened in that game. And Lions, on the other hand, 0-2 against the spread. And as you said, Evan, 0-2 teams have been good historically against the spread. But you're giving me 5.5 here with the Cardinals. It's not even a full touchdown. Kenny Galladay is out for this game. DeAndre Hopkins is playing like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. To me, again, Matt Patricia is one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Two teams right now going in completely opposite directions. You aren't even going to give me a full touchdown. I like that all day. You got the Cardinals with Kyler Murray going to easily beat the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I think that should be a fun, high-scoring game. Maybe the points, the 5.5, don't matter as much because the score will be very high. I'm going to transition to my third pick. Raiders go into Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Patriots are 6-point favorites. I like them. In the last 17 years, here's your trend of the day. Belichick, 70% against the spread after a loss. They lost last week to Seattle. Also, another overreaction here. I like to chase overreactions to primetime games. Overreaction in a positive way to the Raiders. They gave up 7.4 yards per play to Drew Brees, who looked like he belonged in a broadcasting booth. And the Raiders only averaged 5 yards per play offensively. I think this is also a down spot for Vegas. This was a highly emotional win last week. First game in a new city in Vegas. It was their biggest win in several years, I believe, for the Raiders. What do we know about Bill Belichick? He's going to take away your primary weapon. Last week, Raiders were very Darren Waller dependent. 10 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. He is also banged up heading into this game. My question is, who else can Derek Carr throw to? Because Henry Ruggs is out, someone besides Waller has to step up. I don't know if they have enough weapons on the perimeter for Derek Carr. And Cam Newton was phenomenal against Seattle on Sunday night last week, and he gets to play the horrible Raiders defense. I like the Patriots to roll in this game, 27-17.
I like that pick a lot. I really considered it for this week. It was almost on this list, but I'm going with another home favorite here. The Falcons -3 against the Bears. I love this bet. Never thought I would be betting on an 0-2 team against a 2-0 team when the 0-2 team is 3-point favorites, but here we are, betting on the Falcons. I think people right now are way too high on the Bears. And yes, the Falcons are 0-2 and the Bears are 2-0, but let's take a second, look at who they lost to and won against. The Falcons lost to a Seahawks team that is the third best team in the NFL, arguably the hottest team, with Wilson playing one of his best games that I've seen him play. Very good Cowboys team that game they probably should have won. They blew that lead, which I'm not saying that, obviously they did blow the lead, but it was still a relatively impressive performance, especially offensively. And then the Bears, on the other hand, had to come back from down multiple scores against the Lions and almost blew that game against the Giants. So I have not been impressed by the Bears in recent weeks compared to the Falcons. And so, I think there's just an overreaction again to the fact that Trubisky is not playing like the worst quarterback in the NFL. People saw him play decently for a brief point in both games and are now acting like he's some great quarterback or something like that. But I'm not buying it. Falcons are electric. Bears have played well, but against not so electric teams, and the Bears defense is not going to be able to stop this Falcons offense. And Trubisky, who despite what my people think is going to look like a bad quarterback, he's not going to be able to keep up with this Falcons offense whatsoever. So even though the number is not 2.5, which would have been even more favorable for me, I'm still going to take the 3 points, knowing that a field goal will still be a push, but I like the Falcons a lot here at -3. So yeah, those were our 3 bets. Thanks so much for being on the podcast here, Evan.
Yep, thank you for allowing me to be on the podcast and my terrible picks.
Yeah. We'll be doing one of these every Saturday, so stay tuned in for that, I guess. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, peace.